You know, when it comes to making a lot of money, there are various ways that you can go about doing that. Kris has shared some critical ways that you can invest in real estate, investing in businesses, going for that high ROI. But when you're starting out, the quickest way to climb that ladder to where you're making enough money to start investing is either by being an entrepreneur or being a high-paid sales rep. Truly, the people in an organization that are paid the most amount of money are going to be sales reps because they have the ability to bring in large sums and get a piece of the action, which is essentially being an entrepreneur, but inside of an organization. Many people don't know this, but Kris Krohn was an excellent sales rep and a corporate trainer at a previous company in a previous life before he got into real estate big time. And in fact, he leveraged the money he was earning in his sales job in order to start investing. So if you are in a sales role or if you're interested in becoming a sales representative of your organization, Kris Krohn has some powerful insights how to become the top paid salesperson.
Welcome, glad to have you guys here. I'm gonna take a few minutes with you. Who got to participate in the event the other week? Who got to be there? How was your experience?
Awesome.
Was it good?
Oh yeah.
Best 3 days of my life, period.
I love it. That's what we love to hear. That's what we love to do. So listen, so glad to have you all here today. I've got a brief message that I'm gonna share with you today that I hope will be useful and meaningful. First of all, happy Love Day. Right? Make Cupid bite you in the butt and cause you to do irrational things and spend money on people that you love. Hopefully you have a great Valentine's Day. And if you're single, then, no. All right.
Thanks, Kris.
You're welcome. By the way, Cody, what's up? Putting up $40,000 last week. There's some love right there, guys. One more time. Give it up for Cody. Where's Zion? Zion's on his way back, so he managed to throw up $31,000. You guys did great. You know, no, there are only a few people excited about that one, Carson.
That's right.
So I wanted to share a message with you guys this morning about a book that I'm working on. We know that the Have It All book, you guys all have audiobook of Have It All, right? Hopefully you're taking the opportunity to listen to it. This book is, I think, one of the most important financial books that is out there for this generation. And that's because it's teaching people to look at money very, very different. It's teaching you to evaluate opportunity, not by strategy, but by ROI. And that is something that no one in the world is talking about. So it's a unique niche that we're really owning. And it's the way that I make all my financial decisions. I will literally spread my ROIs instead of spreading my strategies. And so read that book, get through that book, and I think that you're gonna find that it's directly useful to the conversations that you're having. Who here is actually working through that book right now as it is? Raise your hand if you've started. Just one. For the rest of you, we got some of you online. I think we've dropped the SoundCloud of the audio book for all of you. So go through that book. I did the one thing on this planet I hate more than anything, which is recording an audiobook. I had to read the book like 8 times with Carson over 3 days, and that was to ensure that we produced the right thing with the right amount of entertainment and energy and all that good stuff. But I hate doing audiobooks. But I think that so much of the world today listens to them. It's so effective and efficient. So get on that. By the way, if that book will help you increase sales, would that be a good book to read? Yes. 100%. I want to tell you about the book. So I'm working on my next 5 books right now. I'm working on my books over the next decade. And successful people think in decades. That's the bottom line. And poor people think in days or weeks. And so you have to find a way to shift thinking to get really long-term in your strategies and your plays and what you're gonna do. And so much of what I share with you as far as your game plan for how you financially get ahead, I've given all of you a 5-year game plan. Does everyone know what I mean by your 5-year game plan? Year 1, it's figure out how to get on track for making $100,000 a year, right? And year 2, you've got to be on track for making $100K more than you need for your expenses. If you do that, then year 3, year 4, year 5, you're gonna have extra money that you're gonna lay into all sorts of investments. And those different investments means that by the end of the 5 years, all of that money put to work should be making you more money than your job, even if you're making crazy multiple 6 figures here. So now you have options, and that's all money is. It's about giving you options. Y'all got a 5-year game plan, yes or yes? Yes. So this next book is not about money. This next book is all about time. It's all about the ultimate currency in life. People think that money is the ultimate currency, and they're wrong. Because you can do something like right now, there's this sweet opportunity, there's this business that will pay out an extra $50,000 passive a year. Who wants it? Up, I saw hands go up. What if I told you that business needed $10 million up front to start? What if that business ended up being a worse ROI than a 401k? What if that business had some risk in it that could absolutely crush all your financial dreams? Be a horrible business, even though it sounds like, but Kris, I can make an extra 50 grand on the side, right? So money, when you just look at it individually, if you don't have a way to rank opportunity, it's very easy to pursue the wrong things. And most people, they focus on money. Poor people will spend their time to get money, and that's a problem. But rich people will spend what? Money to reclaim their time. You want to become obsessed with this phrase. How do I reclaim my time? That's the name of the game. It's not how do I make more money? Because the idea is if I make more money, I'll reclaim my time. Do you know what most people do when they make $100,000 a year more than they actually need based on their current expenses? What do most people do? Parkinson's law is they will increase their expenses by about $100,000. And so it's like, but wait, I got more money. Didn't solve the problem. Why? Because I was only looking at money. This whole book is 6 filters for how you evaluate yes and no decisions based on time filters. How do you reclaim your time? Because money will always follow time. So I want to just share with you how you do that here. Like Zion, why on earth is he throwing up $31,000 last week and yet he's returning from a trip? Sounds like he's been mixing business and pleasure. Doesn't it? I see Max mixing business and pleasure all the time. And if you know how to produce a result effectively, that mixing business and pleasure means that you can command more of your own personal time. True or false? Okay, so let me ask you, what would you rather have? Work 40 hours a week and make $100,000 a year, or work 40 hours a week and make $40,000 a year? Which would you rather have? This is not a trick question. What would you rather have? I'd rather have $100,000 for my 40 hours a week. What would you rather have? Work 60 hours a week and make $200,000 a year, or make $100,000 a year for the same 60 hours a week? Which would you rather have? So you'd rather have $200,000 for 60 hours a week. Check this one out. 80 hours a week. It's a big ask. It's a lot of time, but you can make $400,000 a year, or with 40 hours a week, you can make $50,000 a year. Which would you rather have?
80.
Doesn't it start becoming problematic at some point?
Yeah.
Because if you value money and you allow your time to be based solely on money, what will inevitably happen? It'll eat up your time. By the way, having lots of money and without having time, that kind of sucks. It's better than not having time or money. It's better than not having time or money. But your goal is to build a plan where you can have both, yes? Yes. So there is a way for you to work this opportunity where you can work 40 hours a week and make $250,000 a year, or you can work 40 hours a week and make $50,000 a year. Which would you rather have? $250,000 or 50 grand? What would you rather have? Okay, then that means that you have to, if you're gonna put 40 hours in no matter what, and you can't reclaim that, then you have to get maximum leverage of the time that you're putting out. Because watch, if I put 40 hours out and I make $250,000 because of how I spend my time, then I can take the extra money that I'm making, I can take the extra 6 figures and do what? I can invest. Now I'm gonna tell you something right now. If you can figure out how to make $250,000, Max, is that possible? Nick, is that possible? Sure. Marianne, is that possible? Yes, Kris? Okay, so there are people here that know how to make their time more valuable or less valuable. And that's what I want to talk about for a moment, because in the beginning, you're going to put in time. Reclaiming time doesn't mean get all your time back now. It means reclaim time to use your time effectively on what works. Because I'll argue if you've been here a year and you're making less than $50,000 a year, but you're working 40 hours a week, then how you spend your time is crap. It means that you're in a fixed mindset, and it means that you're not learning. It means that you're not growing, and it means that you're satisfied. And satisfaction without hunger, you will wake up a decade from now and say, oh, I finally found my mojo. I finally found my motivation. I think I'm ready to go. Sucks that I lost a decade of my life because I couldn't figure out how to get hungry for the time I was going to spend. Does that make sense? For your 5-year game plan to work, the goal is not for you to graduate from 40 hours a week to make more money to work 60 hours a week to make more money to work 80 hours a week. The goal is for you to work smarter, not harder. Scrooge McDuck made a huge impression on Disney afternoon after school when I was a kid growing up because he told his 3 nephews that you have to learn how to work smarter, not harder. And I got obsessed. I'm obsessed with this idea that if I'm going to spend time, then I need to spend my time as intelligently as possible. Because every single one of you here is going to put in roughly the same amount of time. If I take my high earners and my low earners, your time commitment is probably somewhat similar. Raise your hand if you would agree. So the question is, why are some people earning more? Are they better? Are they more talented? Are they lucky? Or are they using their time more effectively? What do you think? Their time management looks very, very, very different because we have standards. So I want to talk for just a moment about critical drivers and what they are meant to help you diagnose so that you can crush and so that you can win. You have to become obsessed with calculating percentages. And I take notes on this. You want to become obsessed with percentages. Now, by the way, everyone here can calculate percentages, right? Like I'm going to pull up my calculator right now and let's just do a simple one. It's called a closing ratio. What is it? Okay, I'm going to pull out my calculator right here and I'm going to say, well, I got on 10 conversations where they wanted to know about the opportunity and I closed 1. So 10 divided by 1 is what? 10%. It's 10%. So my closing ratio is what? 10%. How should you feel about that? I'm not going to tell you to feel bad about it, but you should have a goal. And the goal is to have a closing percentage today and this week that is higher than last week's. If you became obsessed with that, then you would be focusing on the right things. Because Max, let me ask you, what's your closing ratio? If you hop on 10 sets, how many of them are going to close?
7 out of 10.
Max is going to close 7 freaking out of 10 sets. That is an obscene, by the way, closing ratio. And you only get to that if you're doing certain habits. And Max, what are your habits that keep increasing your closing ratio?
My habits, I think that I have a really good routine, like you said, as far as time management goes. But on my sets, when I vent them, I'll also set it back to the closer if it's not.
If it's not set right, you know that you may not be able to close it unless the setter has a higher likelihood of fixing a broken set than you do of waving a magic wand and correcting a mistake.
Yes.
So you'll basically say, let me teach you, now I need you to go back and fix it because you need to learn how to do this the right way. And I'm not going to reward you with a magic wand, especially if it's going to lower our collective closing percentage.
Yes, exactly.
So there's a training component to make sure that you keep your closing ratio high because of how you train your team.
Yes.
Good. What's another thing that you do?
Another thing that I do,
I'm going to extract the obvious one that I want. What do you do when you're pitching a part of anything and you can tell that you're pitching weak? What do you do when you self-reflect on a weak close because you didn't know what to say?
when I'm still on the call.
No, when the call's over. Call's over, you're reflecting and you knew that you botched a part of the script. They asked you a question that threw off your groove and you didn't know what to say. What do you do?
Oh yeah, that's easy. I replay it multiple times in my head and I wonder what I did wrong and I usually know instantly.
Got it. And
I fix it in my head myself.
so you fix it. And by the way, if you can't fix it, then what do you do?
I ask Marianne.
Awesome. And if Marianne's not available, then what do you do?
I wait till she's available.
Okay, so you basically, so a lot of people could say, oh, when I can't figure something out, I'll have a good intention of getting to it and trying to correct it. Max has a system that says, I ain't moving on with my life. I'm going to stay stuck until I figure this out because I promise you, if I get stuck once, if it happens once, Murphy's Law says it'll happen what? It'll happen again. So Max makes sure that he's ready for that.
It depends on what I got stuck on. If it was a real estate or a numbers like investment question, I'll do my research. If it was like a coaching or a mindset breakthrough, then I will research.
Perfect, awesome. So Max is basically, he has a really high closing ratio because he knows what it takes to have it. So you take pride in your closing ratio?
Yeah.
Awesome, and I bet people that give you sets love being on your team.
Yes.
Yeah, Nick, what's your closing ratio?
The last 2 weeks or
Yeah,
overall?
sure.
2 weeks ago, it was 100%. Last week, it was 72.
Okay, so Nick is averaging 60% on his closing ratio. If you're new at this game, you're going to be at 10%. Like everyone has to suck before they get gooder. So what you have to do is you have to figure out, what is my system for getting better? And what I'm saying is you should focus on percentages. This is one of the things that you should have. You have critical drivers for a reason. So you should track 2 types of numbers. The first one is intro closes and set close model. On intro closes, if I get on the phone and someone says, and I blast them with the opportunity, and they're like, oh my gosh, I could work with Kris's team as coaches and have proximity. Yes, I want that. And then you get to money and you find out they have money. At that moment, you need to put a trigger that says, this is now a viable purchaser. I'm not saying that they should buy, I'm saying that they could buy. The moment you get far enough that you know they can, your countdown is on. And for the week, I would do a tally system. If I get to the end of the week and I'm like, I had 13 tallies and I had 1 buyer, then my closing rate is 7% because I pulled up my calculator and 13 divided by 1 is 7%. And I'm like, great, now I know my base. What should my goal be next week? If you close 7%, what should your goal be? How do I get that number over 10? How do I go double digit? And by the way, next week it's 12. What should your goal be? How do I get that to 20? And by the way, as long as every week it's getting bigger, and you're gonna have weeks where it's not, but if on average you're trending in the right direction, you have to get to a point where you can close 1 and 4. Like you have to be able to do that. If I talk to someone and they pick up the phone, I find a little bit of pain, I tell them they have the chance to work with Krohn and team and resources, and they get excited, and I get to money, and I find out they have money for something. If I can at least close at 1 and 4, then I'm not good, but I'm not bad. And that means that I can now survive and make it here. Long enough to what? Get to 30, get to 40. Same thing on sets. You want to take pride. Hey, I put up 3 sets this week, 1 closed. So is that a reflection of my team leader, my closer, or is it a reflection of me? The sale is made with who, the setter or the closer? Setter. What do you guys think, setter or closer? Setter. It's the setter, right? Which means you have the easy job. You just have to set really high bar and make sure that they are committing to play all out if they're given the opportunity. But you don't have to ask them to buy anything. But it's easy when you're brand new to give a weak set. Because it's like, all right, I'm supposed to I know they're married. They told me they make all the decisions. I'm just going to leave that alone and hope that Max can do well with that. Max, do you like that?
I don't love it.
No, you're going to toss it back and you're going to say, hey, listen, when I'm a setter, I have 2 ways of asking the question. Let me show you the wussy way. All right, well, great. Well, listen, obviously the second of 4 things that I need to ask you before I can have you talk to Max about what it'd be like to partner with Krohn and do all these things. Don't ever refer to me that way as Mr. Kris Krohn. Right, I need to make sure that I'm talking, that Max is going to talk to the real decision maker. I know that you're married, but I mean, obviously you wear the pants in the family and you're the one that really makes the decisions, right? What's wrong with that? I'm going out of my way to not get the what involved? Spouse, because I'm afraid of what? Crap, I'm so close to giving it to Max, but then I have to go get them on the phone. I got to go all the way back to the beginning like I was supposed to in the beginning, like I was supposed to, but I didn't, right? And I was just hoping that Max would have a magic wand. How many of you ever give a set to your team leader and you're like, magic wand moment, please be really talented with this person? How many of you ever do that? Be honest, raise your hand if you've ever done that. Every one of you has done that at some point, right? So instead, here's what you learn. There's an art. There's an art that says, obviously, if you have a chance to talk to Max and he's representing Kris Krohn, there's only a limited number of partners that Kris can take on. And believe me, Max's job working directly with Kris is to find the most qualified people. And we're talking about a multi-million-dollar real estate business, even if you buy 1 home. Because 1 home, even over 20 years, has a chance to turn into millions of dollars for you. So we're talking about a really big decision. I want to ask you, out of love and respect to your spouse, if you're about to make a decision that big, don't you think that's something they should absolutely be involved with? That is a plea to get them to say what? You should have your spouse on the phone. And by the way, I shouldn't wait to the end of my conversation to actually get there. I should have done it when? At the very beginning, if I talk, we connect, we build some pain, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have a chance. Did you know Kris Krohn has asked me to help find a couple of people that he can actually partner with, do deals with, give his coaches, his team, his resources to, and the person's like, yes, that's amazing. You know what my next thing would be? Let me just ask, out of curiosity, like, are you in a committed relationship? Are you married? Do you have a partner? Oh yeah, there's my wife, Stephanie. She's not here right now. She's working. It's like, oh, cool. Check it out. This conversation that we're gonna have is gonna take about 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, I will really know if you and Stephanie have what it takes to work that closely with Kris Krohn. Here's what I wanna do. I wanna find time when she's off work, when I can talk to the two of you, and I wanna make sure that we can really go through this and make sure you understand this, because this could absolutely change everything in your life. It's a big deal. And obviously, out of just love and mutual respect that you have for Stephanie, you'd probably want her to be a part of a big life-changing decision, right? Yeah, absolutely. Once she off work, well, she's off work at 3 this afternoon. It's like, well, what about you? Well, dude, we could talk at 4. Let's talk at 4. That's how you're supposed to do it. You talk that way, you do that, and guess what happens to your closing ratio? It goes up, right? So you should then de-risk. Well, where am I scared when I'm on the phone? Oh man, every time I gotta, I'm talking to someone that has $9,000. And what program should I be sharing with them? The Works. But I got some of you that are not pitching the Works. You know what you're pitching? $497. $497, do you know why? There's some fear. And you shouldn't be taking phone calls. You should get with the breakthrough coach, you should get with your team leader, and you gotta say, hey, I need to role play this with you. You're gonna find out that I suck, and then I need you to help me role play this until I stop sucking. And to the point where you practice, like Max does in his head over and over and over again. He's practicing saying, I want you to write this down, $4,997. It's probably the least expensive education that has the power to create multiple streams of income and give you all the tools and resources that Kris wished he would have had it in the very beginning of his journey. I want you to write that number down, $4,997. You practice that. You never say a number unless you're saying it with total confidence. And that's usually a function of practice. What will happen to your closing ratio if you do that? Go up. If you're nervous when you say a number, guess what will happen to your closing ratio? If you leave a spouse out, will your closing ratio go up or down? By the way, if you tell someone the opportunity to work with Kris Krohn and they're not getting excited about it, is that a reflection on them or you? Because the majority of these people, if you say it the right way, if you're blast, meaning the opportunity in the beginning sucks, you need to pause and get off of the phone, and you got to get with Ryan or someone. You got to start role playing with your team leader until you can say, all right, thanks for telling me about you. Let me just take a quick minute and tell you why I'm calling you and why Kris wanted me to call you. And then you can tell me whether you think it's a waste of your time or not. I love that line, by the way. I love telling people that you're allowed to basically get me off the phone even just 1 minute from now if you're not literally over the moon excited about what I'm about to share with you. Kris has trained me how to deliver financial game plans exactly how he does it. He knows how to take any person, whether you're deeply in debt, you got a little money, or you're rich. He can take anyone and show them how to multiply their wealth. He is so talented at it. He's taught me how to do it. And this week he asked me if I would find a handful of people that he can work closely with, that his coaches can work closely with. And Kris has all these resources that he wants to give to the right person who's truly committed. Let me ask you this question. If you were selected to work with Kris Krohn and his team and his resources so that he could help you build multiple streams of income and absolutely address that job that you hate and have your life completely and utterly changed, is that something you'd be interested in? If you don't know how to use those words in a commanding voice the way I just did it, that can get them freaking through the moan, out of their body, energetically pumped and excited, then you got to get off the phone, you got to role play. Because your closing ratio, if you don't do that with the right energy, will go up or down. Your job, you need to be obsessed with percentages. With what? Percentage. And you should take pride in your personal closing ratio. You should know what your intro closing rate is. You should know what your set close closing ratio is. And your goal every week is one thing: make the number. And as long as the number is going big, 6 months from now, you are gonna love where you're at. Because it's easy to get distracted on focusing on the wrong things. For example, well, I'm a hard worker. I put all my dials in. Marianne, if someone has really great work ethic and they know how to dial the phone a lot, but they can't engage the audience when they talk to them, if they can't engage a person, do we value effort or do we value results? Which means you have to become a results-oriented person. A what? Results. And in my mind, every day, my pals, this is what I'd write down. I get results. What is it? I get results. Yeah, I get results. That's what I do. I would rather get a result than a salary. If you're in this room, that has to be the mantra of your life. I would rather get a result than a salary. And you take pride in getting that result. And that result is a function of your closing percentage. Now, by the way, can you close 100% of people? No. You can't, and you're not supposed to. Because are my programs right for everybody? No. Can you even know what's right for someone? No. Your job is to coach them. Is to what? When you smell fear, what should you do? You lean in, you call it out, and you destroy it. You think that someone is relying on an old school mentality, and they think that with their $150,000 in 401k that they're going to make it over the next 20 years. How many of you know how to do the math to debunk that? By the way, if you don't get on the phone. Talk to someone and say, you know what? Turns out I'm kind of scared of math. I know Kris showed me this simple mathematical calculation, but I'm actually not doing it on the phone. Have you ever talked to someone that was proud of what they had set aside for their retirement? How many of you ever talked to someone that actually felt like they were at least a little bit on track or whatever? You have to break that. If you can't mathematically show them, got it. So you've been working 20 years of this. You've got $300,000 set aside. I got to first of all congratulate you. Oh, I'm making them feel good. Yes, you're better off than most people in this situation because the average person in their 60s has $200,000. So you're only 20 years into a 40-year working career. You already have $300,000 set aside for retirement. That's awesome. Let me ask you a question. Over the next 20 years, at the rate that you're growing, what do you think that $300,000 will become as you keep contributing? Logic says it should double and be a little bit more because of some basic interest, right? So maybe you'll have $600,000 in there that grows to $800,000 or $900,000. Let's say that it's even $1 million. They're like, oh, I don't think it'll be that much, but let's just say it is. $1 million times 0.03. Wow, did you realize that if you get to retirement and you stick with your game plan, did you know that you're going to retire on $3,000 a month? Actually, technically $2,762 every month for the rest of your life as a millionaire. I'm just kind of curious. That's the interest. If you don't want to touch the principal, because you're going to live a long life. You're going to live for decades, right? When you're done working, most people live 3 decades now. If you don't want to touch that interest so you don't run out of money, don't touch the principal, you get $2,600 a month of interest. How does that feel? Oh, sucks. Yeah, you would need to have $3 million to even have a basic $8,000 a month. So let me ask you, do you feel like you're on pace or off pace? On track, off track? I feel like I'm off track. I'm going to tell you right now, if Kris Krohn were here right now because he's trained me right to my face, he would tell you right now that you should feel terrified. He would tell you right now you should feel terrified. Unless you're excited about the government kicking in some social and you having $2,700 a month. You should be terrified because what you're doing is broken. It's not working. It's the old school mentality that Kris talks about in all of his videos and all of his books. But I got some good news for you. If you can just figure out how to tap into double-digit ROI, everything will change. And that's what we've been talking about if you have a chance to partner with Kris. Obviously, there are other ways too, but in the next 15 minutes, I think we're going to get really close. I'm going to have you talk to Max. Max is the one who determines who Kris will and won't partner with. My job is I'm just screening, right? I'm just making sure that Max is talking to quality people that are serious. And I feel like you're a quality person, but let me be honest. Do you know that you have to do something different to get your goals? Yes, I do. Closing ratios are going to go up or down? Good. There's always a better way to say something, and you've got to assume that your way is not the best way. You want to know what will make the difference between how to become the best at this game? You focus on your closing percentage increasing every single day. And then you're always curious about getting a better way to say something. Assume that how you're saying it is okay, but that there's a superior way. And if you can get enough superior lines put in your head that you can communicate with the right kind of effort and energy, you're going to kill it here. You're going to do amazing. Because year 1, I need to get you on track for 6 figures. By year 2, you got to be making $100,000 more than you need so that you can invest. So you can be like Marianne here or Max or other people that are buying assets and doing things that are like, yes, like I want to now bring it home to time arbitrage. Your goal is to figure out how to take 40 hours a week and go from $50,000 a year to $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year to $300,000 a year. That's possible for every single one of you here in this room. That's for every one of you joining us everywhere. That's possible for all of you. In other words, it's your job to make your time more valuable. Then you put your money to work and now you're getting leverage. Does it make sense?
Sure. Yes.
So that's my message is make your time more valuable this week. Don't just have your next week. You should ask, what should I focus on? So I'm going to give you a second quick focus. The first one, You make your time more valuable by increasing your closing percentage. By increasing your what? Closing percentage. Here's the second one. I know that there's technical hours of when your day starts and ends, but if it were me, I would build it into my brain. My day never ends until I have at least one close on the board, if not two.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. It's always a pleasure to allow you guys to kind of peek in and see the world behind the scenes where Kris trains our people on becoming the best versions of themselves. And of course, if you want to be an amazing sales rep, I recommend you rewatching this as many times as you can, because Kris holds the keys to unlocking your true potential.